This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. After watching this season of the HBO's original series, The White Lotus, this is the tropical getaway I needed. One more pina colada, please.
Hey, you're not on mute.
Oh, I thought I was in paradise. Turns out it was my Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate pina colada and Thai-iced coffee-flavored creamers. Inspired by the newest season of HBO's original series, The White Lotus. For the love of coffee. Try now.
Make your next move with American Express Business Platinum. You'll get 5 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Plus, enjoy access to the American Express Global Lounge Collection. And with the welcome offer of 150,000 points, your business can soar to all new heights. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Hello and welcome to the British English Podcast, the show that helps you better understand those Brits and how they speak. Today, we're going to look at the life of a British singer or somebody who was in a band, who is still in a band, but was in a band and went on tour. It was all very exciting. And this is with our friend Tim, who was on the show before. Hello, Tim. How are you doing today?
Hello, Charlie. I'm very good. Thank you.
Good. When was the last time you sang in public?
Probably about a year ago. I think you were there in a venue near King's Cross in London to probably about 50 people.
No, there were more than that.
Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning, probably that.
Yeah.
But by the end, on your last song...
Yeah, when everybody knew it was coming to an end.
200?
Yeah,
it was
about
packed.
200 people.
It was packed, yeah. It was really... I really liked it.
Thanks.
Yeah. It was emotional.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Is that how your singing has always been? Very emotional?
Yes. When I first started doing music, I first started successfully doing music,
okay,
I was in a band which did emo music.
What is emo music for the listeners?
Emo music, back in the day, throughout the years of probably about 2001 to maybe its height in 2006, 2007, and then died off towards 2008. People still call themselves emo and things like that, but that was the key years. Emo stood for emotional music.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I thought it was called that, and I said that to Stacey the other day. It's like, is that what it meant?
Yeah.
I was like, you're making me second guess myself, but yeah,
it is
emotional.
Yep.
And that's exactly what you are on stage.
Yes.
Vulnerable.
Yeah. Vulnerable, interspersed with hopefully comedy moments.
Yeah, I would have said that, but you got there first.
Good.
Which is always nice. But yeah, you were very funny in between songs. So it's a nice contrast.
Yeah.
Nice contrast of being very self-deprecating and then effectively crying in lyric form.
Yes. Yeah, that's my style. That is my style.
So let's go back to when you first realised this is a potential career for you.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Xyzal is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Xyzal keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Xyzal. At night.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I would say probably when I was about 15, when I was about 14, 15 years old, I was in a metal band, a metal screamer band. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Very heavy band. And we got signed to a record label called Rising Records.
Okay.
Which was the first record deal I ever had. Not my last, but my first. And I realised that there was money to be made in it. But I kicked back against the man a little bit, which, was a silly move for anybody wanting money. And I left the band as we were about to get paid and go on a massive European tour. Yeah.
As in, you were about to go on tour.
Yeah.
And you said no.
I said no. I was playing bass guitar in that band.
Oh, you weren't the main singer, or you were singing, but...
I was singing backing vocals.
Right.
Wasn't good enough. So I said, I'm going to leave. And I started up my own band when I was about 15, 16. And I think from a young age, particularly in that time, that was 2005, there was still money to be made in music. There isn't anymore as much.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But back then, absolutely. And so I got signed then, and then I got signed again when I was 18. So I felt like there was a pattern that was emerging, that I was doing well enough to get people to put money into the projects. And,
So you were 14 when you felt like you had something here.
Yeah.
And when did you actually start touring? Because you said that you kind of said no to the first tour.
Yeah, so I was touring with them, but just around the UK.
Okay.
When I was 14.
Right.
So I think I first went on the road around 14, 15, and then was touring pretty relentlessly until I was 25. So
wow,
for 10 years in different bands.
Yeah.
I was on the road constantly. Yeah.
You must know the M25 like the back of your hand.
I do. I know most of the service stations around the UK really well. We rated them.
But you've got to do it again because they've improved in the last 10 years.
Yeah. I wouldn't know them now.
Yeah. I could imagine you go, oh, this is not what I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have a casino here anymore.
Yeah. I didn't want to say, but the one we stopped off at on the way back from the Lake District, I knew that one well.
So for context, we drove to the Lake District in the last 6 months, I'd say, for the weekend. And it was far too quick because it took about 10 hours going up there on the Friday, 10 hours on the way back on the Sunday. So we just had a day.
Yeah.
And we did one hill. No, one slightly...
half mountain.
Yeah. And then went back in the car.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So... you were young enough to be in school and be touring. So what goes on there? How do you handle school life?
You have to do your homework in the van.
No way.
So we, particularly around then when I was 14, 15, you're coming up towards your GCSEs, the first big exam practice that you have in your teenage life. So as we were leaning towards that, I would study in the van, get out of the van, play a gig, get back in the van, drive 4 or 5 hours wherever we were, do a little bit more revision and then go to bed and then wake up and do it all again.
Goodness me.
I know.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Just seems very different.
Yes.
To what I know.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get in a van was it a van or a minibus or
it was a splitter van, they call it. So you have 6 seats in the back.
Yeah.
Eventually we had a portable DVD player. Screwed onto the near the ceiling of the van.
Class.
So you could watch DVDs. And then in the front you'd have 3 seats and would have one of the dads driving us around. This was really back in the day.
This is 2005?
Yeah, 2005, yeah. We would have the dads driving us around, the guitarist whose dad was driving us in the front seat, and then the rest of the lads in the back.
Yeah.
And the singer or the screamer, Toby, very dear friend of mine.
Such a non-screamer name.
Yeah, it's not very metal. Toby Underhill. Toby, the most wonderful, brilliant man. He wasn't too into school. He never really got along with it. So he wouldn't do his homework, but I was sat there taking it very seriously and revising and doing my English and things like that.
That's really hard I commend you to sticking to that because, if there's only 2 of you in the classroom and one of you's pissing about, the other one is likely to start joining in.
Exactly.
So well done, Tim.
Thank you so much.
For not getting on the wrong side of life like Toby. What's Toby doing now?
Toby moved to New Zealand and he's a big fashion influencer. And he tattoos and does barbering So he got himself trade and he's very talented man, very creative man. But he just, school did not. Yeah. He didn't get along with it.
Hopefully he didn't take to screaming in his clients' faces. No. God, that'd be a bloody... Either one, that would be bloody, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Earlobes cut or like...
Yeah. Or maybe just at the end when he needs to get paid. £20.
Not including tip! Yeah. Okay. What were your first impressions of life on the road?
It was very exciting when you're 14 and it was, at school was the main thing that happens when you're 14 or football. I was big into football. But when you get into a van and you start touring and we're playing with men, we're going to venues where everybody was much older.
Right.
So you're rocking up as a 14-year-old. There's two things that happen with that. One is the thing you'd hope for, and maybe only 25% of the bands did, which was they love it. They love the fact that a couple of 14-year-old kids, like the School of Rock, has walked through the door, and they get really into it. The other 75% see it as a bit of a joke that you're taking one of the spots on the gigs, that should be for adults.
Oh, yeah.
And it just turned out that we were better than most of them anyway. So, stuff that lot. But so it was quite intimidating. I remember, having to meet adult men and kind of speak to adults in a different way. You were having to have adult conversations. You have to get money out of adults before you go home, going up to, we'd have the dad with us, but a lot of the time it would fall on us to go, you owe us that 30 quid for petrol,
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting. I think it also became quickly, you realised how boring the van was. 4 hours in a van and then 4 hours on the way back. You learned how to sleep upright in a car. I learned that very early on. No matter
no pillow, no pillow. Like neck support.
Just like a sim laying in bed, just sitting there static, sleeping. And then you got to see from a very early age the beauty of England. Got to see the beauty of Wales and south and going down to Brighton and things like that. I'd never been to those places before.
Yeah.
So it was quite nice to, when you get in a tour van up to Scotland, which happened in a little bit later on another band, we toured the entirety of Scotland and we would camp in places and
actually tent life?
Actually tent life, yeah, because we weren't getting paid enough to have hotels.
Yeah.
So we would just camp. And in Scotland you can camp anywhere. I think that's the rules. At least that was the rules for us. And so, throughout the whole period of time, all the way from 14 up to 25, the best thing about it was seeing different places and experiencing them like nobody else would.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is nice. Yeah. What did you think of Brighton?
Really loved Brighton when I was younger.
Yeah.
I still like Brighton.
Yeah.
But we really liked playing it. The audiences were always good. And you would have fish and chips for dinner. So it's quite good. It was a double win.
Yeah. That was good. Nice. Did that make you grow up quickly, do you think, having to deal with grown-ups around you and it being a career?
Yeah,
so
I think so. Particularly when I left that band and went to the band that I was fronting. I was also helping managing that band with our guitarist. So you have to get to know contracts quite quickly and the importance of a contract. You have to have the confidence to not only go up on stage and sing all the songs and all that kind of stuff, but come off stage, sell a bunch of t-shirts, not get, too drunk and not to get too distracted by anything because you have to pick up the check at the end of the day. You have to get in the van, you have to get home.
Yeah.
So there was lots of things that you had to learn quite quickly that I don't think I would have learned in a job coming out of school.
Yeah. I mean, 14, you may have been older when you were talking about the managing, but at 14, I was doing my first paper round.
Yeah.
So that's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. I juggled the paper round for a little bit with the band.
With the band?
Yeah. Wake up at 5 a.m. I don't know if you had to do... We wake up really early, go down to the paper shop, pick them up, cycle around, to the point where it didn't last that long and I just ditched all the papers at one point,
Nice.
I'm a rock star. What am I doing this?
Sod off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was the weird balance between that because all my friends were, I guess, going off with their weekends, going off and doing really fun things. Or football was a big thing to me and it had to become a small thing for me and people were playing football still, but I wasn't. Because every weekend I was either practicing in Essex, where I'd have to travel to, or playing a gig or on tour, So it really... all of my personal time quickly became work time, but it didn't feel like work because it was fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know what you mean. Did the school children have respect for you for being a rock and roll star?
No, I think if you ask some of them, I
really hoped
maybe.
for a yes then.
Yeah.
I didn't expect a no, to be honest.
No, not from where I was from. It was kind of, I think particularly if you were an emo kid,
Right.
if you had long hair and you wore skinny jeans, you got bullied a little bit anyways.
Right.
But then you throw into the mix, doing a gig and screaming throughout the whole gig and all that kind of stuff. And any of the cool kids seeing that, they would think you were quite strange. So we... it wasn't that I was totally unliked throughout all of it, but nobody particularly thought it was cool. Now it's the coolest thing in the world. If you say it in a boardroom or if you say it in a social setting, people go, "Oh my God, you were touring from the age of 14." It's like, yeah, I wish you were there back then when I was getting bullied by all the cool lads. So yeah, back in the day, it didn't go down that well with other people.
Yeah. Oh, I can see that actually. Like thinking of the emos in my year, some of them were in little rock bands, not touring at all, but we didn't pay them much attention actually. Yeah.
Best way. Leave them to it.
Now streaming on Peacock.
By all that's holy, Bridget Jones.
Hello, old friend.
Bridget Jones is back
We are about to embark on an adventure.
for one final chapter.
Anything else I can help with?
Yes.
Experience every moment
Do you think about what might have been?
and fall in love
To Bridget.
all over again.
It's time to live.
Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. Streaming now only on Peacock.
You know what's smart? Enjoying a fresh gourmet meal at home that you didn't have to cook. Meet Factor, your loophole in the laws of mealtime. Chef-crafted meals delivered with a tap, ready in just 2 minutes. You know what's even smarter? Treating yourself without cheating your goals. Factor is dietitian approved, chef prepared, and you plated. Pretty smart, huh? Refresh your routine and eat smart with Factor. Learn more at factormeals.com.
How did your family and friends react to your touring lifestyle?
My mum and dad were very keen on me doing school. They sort of, in hindsight, they knew the importance of getting out of a small town, and the only way you could do that is education and going to university, which I think is probably the best way to get out of a small town. So my mum and dad would be like, "It's fine to do it, but you have to do your education," and which I did. I did my homework in the van, so they could see that. But I think that a lot of my friends had to end up being the lads in the band or in the music world, because you couldn't hang out in the same way that you could, with other, like with your friends, because you're spending all your time doing music. So the lads that I did music with ended up being my bestest friends.
And they were adults?
Yeah.
Apart from the other one, young
Oh,
kid.
no, we were all 14. We were all 14 and 15 in that first band.
Oh,
Yeah.
the first band, all of you.
Yeah. So when we just went on tour, we would have to deal with adults,
Right.
because other bands would all be full-grown adults
Got
who'd been
it.
doing it for 15 years or
Got
something.
it, yes.
Because we'd been doing it for 1 year, and we were 14.
What, were you born yesterday? Yes.
Yes. You can hardly play that bass guitar. I know. I can't. So, yeah. But I think family were really supportive, my mum and dad. And then my brothers, I think they found it quite cool. They didn't really care. You know what brothers are like, and sisters and stuff. They don't really get involved.
No,
you know.
I suppose it becomes the norm for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Did you have an expectation of what life on the road would be like, and did it meet that?
Yes and no. So my expectation was tall vans and, tall buses, sorry.
Okay.
Tall buses and luxury and glamour and, people loving you. Unconditional love from strangers. That's really what I expected. It really became so admin based, and it's not like we couldn't go off and have fun in the places that we were, but there was so much traveling involved. It's like what people say on film sets. You spend most of your time in your trailer waiting for the 2-minute call that you go on set, you act, and you come back off.
Yes.
In the band, it's very similar. You spend most of your time in the van driving. Like we'd have to go to Newcastle from London or whatever,
Oh, so it felt very much like our Lake District trip.
Yes.
Yes.
Constantly.
So that's life on the road.
That
basically.
for me was PTSD type vibes, because I was like, this again. Driving to do something for 2 hours. So yeah, really strange. And you'd only be on, particularly in the early days, you'd only get a 30-minute slot,
And
play
then
the
you
gig.
drive back that night.
Yeah,
sometimes.
Yeah, and it was frowned upon to not watch the other bands, so you'd watch all the other bands up till 11 o'clock. So if you were doing anything above the Midlands, 3-4 hours away or whatever, you wouldn't get back till about 3 a.m. and then I'd kip, and then I'd be back at school. Yeah, it was right. I don't know how youth, the ignorance of youth,
right,
allowed me to do it.
Yeah. But nowadays,
no chance. No chance.
Gigging in London is a stretch.
Yeah,
centre of London.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. Make it more west
on a Saturday. I want to be out listening to some music. I don't know if I touched on this fully. There's another question here. Were there any stereotypes or cliches about British bands that you felt you either lived up to or defied?
Yes. I think the punk DNA is in all English musicians. I think there's a tendency to self-sabotage. I think there's a tendency to be a bit like F you to the man, to the institution. I think there's, when we were growing up, there was this band called Miss Black America. Mm-hmm. And they were a huge band in the area, but they became massive in the UK. They toured with Kaiser Chiefs and things like that, right? They did really well. And famously, Seymour Glass, who was the singer, who lived down the road from me, I'd see him at the record shops and stuff, and you'd be like, oh my God, it's him. He famously went into he got a massive record deal on the table, and he walked into the meeting and he pulled down his trousers and he wiped his bottom with the record contract.
Had he just done a poo?
Threw it. No, I don't know. Didn't ask. Detail I didn't ask. He wiped his bum with this record contract, threw it back at the label, walked out.
I've got another question.
Yeah.
Did he bring his trousers down to his ankles, knees?
I reckon his knees. Every time I've pictured it, I didn't actually ask him. I just said, is that true? And he went, oh, yeah. At this point, in all fairness to him, he's a music icon in my eyes, but he does just do a normal job now. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's quite strange. He never really got to the rock star status, but he did that. And in our band, we had a similar tendency. And when we did the biggest ever tour that we had ever done, we had 3 major labels lined up. So the big, like Warner Brothers, Columbia Records, and Island Records.
Yeah.
3 really big record labels. They all came out to see us. And there was this after party that we had in the upstairs of the Garage in London. Garage is quite a big venue. Played that. And then I was standing with a lady from MTV, the head of A&R at Island Records, who had just signed Ben Howard and Mumford & Sons.
Oh, goodness me.
And really liked her. She was wonderful. We were going to sign with Island. We were happy with that. We had a couple of other labels around, some really big, impressive people, our lawyer, all this kind of stuff. And I watched across this after party as our guitarist punched a bouncer and swore at him. And then all these bouncers jumped on him, dragged him downstairs, and he put his hand through the window of the door in the garage of, this venue.
Yeah.
And the label owner said to me, oh my God, who's that? Like, what is he doing? And I didn't know whether to say it was him or if it was somebody else. And I was like, eventually she'll find out. And then she cottoned on it was him and looked at me very disapprovingly. Oh. And then that evening we broke up. We just had the
band?
Yeah, we had everything laid out to the point where I knew exactly how much I'd be getting from the lady, and it was enough to buy a house. So I planned with my partner at the time, well, we can get this house in this area and do this. And within maybe half hour, it all gone. And when I speak to the guitarist now, who's a really good friend of mine and a brilliant man who's actually a TV historian now, but when I speak to him, I said to him, do we ever regret that? You doing that? And he said, no, the story is so much better than the outcome.
What?
Yeah. And I have a tendency to agree with him. We're both storytellers.
What?
And I much prefer the dramatic ending where we're about to have it all happen for us than potentially the disappointment of it never actually happening for us. We never got the answer.
Do you not want to just shake him and be like, why were you such fuck? I nearly had a house.
Yeah, I did at first. I was fuming with him. I started up another project, which went on to do really well after that as well. But so I I remember thinking, well, I'm just going to go use all those contacts and whatever, But the reality is, he was right. I look back on it now and I thank our lucky stars we never got to that size where you're in debt 800 grand or 700 grand to a record label.
We will be leaving the free version of this episode here for today. But if you did want to continue listening to this conversation, then head over to the BritishEnglishPodcast.com, where you can sign up to the Premium Podcast or the Academy. The Premium Podcast gives you the ad-free version with transcripts, a full glossary and flashcards, whereas the Academy gives you all of that plus a whole lot more, including vocab video lessons, writing assignments, and weekly Zoom classes. But if you were just here for the free version of this episode, then I thank you very much. Congratulations for getting to the end of this part, and I hope to see you back here next week for another episode. I've been your host, Charlie, on the British English Podcast.